Well, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but you could start getting higher electricity bills starting September 1st. That's on top of electricity rates that have already risen 4.4% in Texas over the last year. And it's actually not all from the heat. So we're going to explain what's going on here. We invited David Kinchen, COO with Energy Ogre, to be with us. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So first, let's talk about what happens. This happens every September where we see this tick up in the rate.
Right. Yeah, in the summertime, we have more usage, right? So we have a fixed cost allocated over a larger amount of consumption. So the rates tend to be lower in summer and higher in winter.
Okay. And then let's talk a little bit about what has been driving. We've got this 4.4% increase in electricity rates over the last year in Texas. The good news is that's actually a little lower than the national average, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it feels expensive because it's higher than it was a few years ago. But if you look at other major areas and other big cities, it's definitely lower on average.
Okay. What's happening here? What are some of the issues that are causing those rates to rise?
So it's like a lot of things. You know, Houston suffers from a lot of storms. So we had like a derecho and hurricanes. And so there is a little bit of recovery that goes into after a major storm. They don't hit you all at once. They'll pass that through over time. Things are more expensive. You know, transformers, copper, a lot of costs have risen. So they're having to pass that through as well. And then just in general, I think we have seen after these storms, there was some work to do on kind of shoring up and making the Houston grid a little bit more reliable, so we're not having as many outages during a big storm.
I've been reading that, you know, Texas is kind of a hub for a lot of data centers. They use a lot of electricity. How much is that factoring into this?
So for center point charges, not a lot. Like that will have to go through an approval process, and it's a long and lengthy time. The big issue with the data centers is we'll worry about over the next few years is having enough electricity, and that's more of like a grid issue and a fuel supply issue. Some data centers that are trying to get up and running faster have on-site, off-the-grid generation sitting there on-site because they're told they may not be able to be interconnected for a year or two.
Okay, so give us some advice. What are some steps we can take, things we can do to try to cut our energy bills down?
Sure. So there's a couple things you can do. Some of them are more fun than others. But for example, you can try to use less electricity, right? So that would cut down on your usage. It's easier said than done. It's usually uncomfortable, like big bang for buck. You're, you know, changing your thermostat setting. Maybe you're a little more uncomfortable. Less bang for buck things are like running your dryer early in the day, so you're pulling in outside air that's cooler. Unplugging appliances you're not using, you know, the normal stuff there. The other side of things is the price side. If you haven't looked for electricity in a while, you should probably price that out or hire a company to do that for you. If you're out of contract, the best time is now. If you're in contract, then you kind of want to keep an eye on when your contract end date is.
Is there a time of year that's better than others to switch electricity plans? I was hoping that, you know, things might get better, but when I had to do my last plan, I was like, nope, they got worse.
Yeah, that's really what I focus more on is if you're out of contract, the best time to look is right now. If you're in contract, what you want to pay more attention to is when you're going to let yourself come out of contract. So you want to try to avoid peak summer when things are volatile and peak winter. That's like July, August, February, maybe January. So if you're picking your next contract, it can be tempting to go get a 4-month rate. But if it drops you off in summer, then you're shopping at a bad time. So try to look at kind of the combinations of plans and say, hey, when will this contract end? If you're ending in spring or ending more in fall, those are better times to shop. But if you're out of contract, you're on a month-to-month plan, the best time is immediately. Immediately.
That's the insight I was looking for. David Kinchen with Energy Ogre, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.